Dear God, you didn't give me the spirit of fear, so I have to push past my emotions and do what you called me to do. As I'm walking out of my comfort zone, I'm stepping into the destiny that you have over my life. Lord, my answer is yes. Hey guys, welcome back to Jesus Chosen YE podcast. Usually before I start a podcast, I go into prayer and I ask the Lord to reveal to me what would He like for me to talk about. I just don't want to be talking from the top of my head, you know? And I had a dream, and in the midst of waking up from the dream, I heard the Lord speak clearly, John 5. So we will be reading John 5, 1 through 9, the Amplified Version. There was a Jewish feast, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now in Jerusalem, near the sheep gate, there is a pool, which is called in Hebrew Bethesda, having 5 porticos. In these porticos laid a great number of people who were sick, blind, lame, withered, waiting for the stirring of the water. For an angel of the Lord went down into the pool at an appointed season, stirring up the water. The first one to go in after the water was stirred was healed of his diseases. There was a certain man there who has been ill for 38 years. When Jesus noticed him lying there helpless, knowing that he had been in that condition for a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to get well?" The invalid answered, "Sir, I have no one to put me in this pool when the water is stirred up, and while I am coming to get in myself, someone else stepped down ahead of me." Jesus said to him, "Get up, pick up your pallet and walk." Immediately the man was healed and recovered his strength and picked up his pallet and walked. So when I was reading it, I was stuck on a couple of stuff. And I'm pretty sure some people be stuck on the same thing. When I was reading it, I was like 38 years. Like when you really think about it, it's like how can you wait at a pool for 38 years in the same condition? And just imagine you see people come that was there before you, and you seen people that was there after you for 38 years. And mind you, it in the Bible, it does not state he was 38 years old. They said he waited there for 38. So we don't even know how old he was. So when I was reading that, I was caught up in that one verse right there, like 38 years, like that's a long time. Like, how can a person, like, we get to judge it real easily. Like, how can a person stay there for 38 years? How can they sit in that condition, that predicament for 38 years? And then after that, when I read on, when Jesus asked him, like, would you like to be made whole? And he started complaining, and he was basically saying, like, hey, I have no one to help me. And on top of that, like, even if I try to make it to the pool, someone goes in before me. And for the longest, I was stuck on that, and I was more stuck on his condition. Like, oh, was he paralyzed? Like, what was going on in his body that caused him not to get up? And even if he was paralyzed, like, he couldn't slide in that water. Like, I was just thinking of everything. And in the midst of that, I went to prayer because, whew, shout out to y'all pastors that can give a word every Sunday because this was hard. So I went into prayer, and I was like, I need to go into prayer, and I need to know what the Lord is trying to tell me through this one story, because it's not about the 38 years or his condition. And the Lord spoke clearly to me, and he said, the problem is you are worrying about his condition, and you're not worrying about the moment I had with him. So when I had to reread it, I said, when the Lord said, would you like to be made whole? And he answered, even though it was an answer that most of us would have been like, oh, it's common sense to say yes or no. That wasn't the point. He gave Jesus that moment. In the midst of that moment, the Lord said, pick up your bed and walk. And I had to think about it. Like, the Lord is just asking. Like, in that midst when I was praying, he said, I'm just asking for a moment. In the midst of your condition, in the midst of your struggle, no matter what circumstance that you're going through, the Lord is basically just saying, like, can you give me a moment in the midst of your condition? No matter what you're going through, can you just give me that one moment? Because if you think about it, we give Facebook a moment, we give Instagram, TikTok, we give people, our coworkers, and we be giving them that moment. We be telling them our problems, and they're just getting on the phone. going and telling everybody else. Some of us, we get on Facebook, we get on social media, and we pour out our problems to people that's going through the same thing. And in the midst of it, they're telling other people, hey, did you see what so and so posted on Facebook? They're over here talking about they're going through depression. They're over here talking about they're going through this. And the Lord is saying, can you just give me that moment? Because what I can do in a moment, they can't even do in a second. It would take them years to even try. And the big meaning is try. They could try to help you, but what Jesus can do in that moment, he can shift the atmosphere in that moment. He can shift your circumstance in that moment. In that moment, the man was paralyzed, but when Jesus came, he got up and walked. Just imagine that. What can happen if we give the Lord our moment? And in the midst of that, I had to think about my testimony, and who the testimony is kind of, it's hard to share, but I know, okay, I know in the midst of telling the testimony, it will help other people, and in the midst of that, it will help me. So, I need a breather. I didn't think it was gonna be that hard. Okay, so the Lord brought me back to, this was August 2019. And we all go through stuff in life, and in that moment, you know, a lot was going on, and I was just like, Lord, I don't know anymore. I tried therapy, you try talking to friends and stuff, but it's just not, people give opinions and everything. And it's not like I'm not saying that therapy don't work, but it works for some people and it don't work for others. And my problem was I depended on people for help. So in the midst of me seeking help, I went to therapy, and when I had went to therapy, it's not funny. I can laugh at it now, but in the midst of going through therapy, you out here, you're pouring your issues out to someone, and I remember talking to the lady, telling her everything I was going through, and now I think a week went by later. Now it's time for me to go through my therapy. And when I went, no, before I even went, I got a phone call, and it was from the lady at the front desk, and she was like, "Hey, we would need your insurance because the lady that you were going to, she no longer worked here anymore, and they couldn't tell any more detail." And I was like, I think they wanted me to pay like 125 or something a week, and I was like, yeah, nah, I'm good. And you already created a bond and everything with this person, so I was like, no, I'm good. And maybe a week or two went by. I had got a letter in the mail, and it was from the therapist, and she had wrote inside the letter saying that out of all the years she was a therapist, my story touched her the most, and she couldn't believe how strong I was at that age. And she said she decided that she didn't want to do therapy anymore, and she wanted to seek out and do something else, because she said being a therapist, they need their own therapist because they have to put on the weight of other people's problems. And she told me that meeting me was one of the best decisions that she made during the therapy, like the time she was a therapist. But she had stated from me talking about God that she went and she said, I just want to let you know that everything is all right with me. I didn't quit because of you. Like, you helped me move on, choose something different in life. But she said, I just want to let you know I went out and I got my first King James Bible. So in the midst of me seeking out from help, I was actually being a help to her. So you never know. So that's why therapy could be for you, could not be for you. It wasn't for me, but the Lord used me in that particular moment to reach someone else. Yeah, we could be born in church, raised in church, it don't matter. Sometimes it's like we forget about God. We forget about what he could do for us. We're so busy worrying about, oh, this person wasn't there or this person could have helped me. And Jesus is right there. So back to the testimony. I remember I was in my room and so much stuff was going on. And I was like, you know, you have these thoughts in your mind. And I was just like, Lord, I don't know if I can keep living like this. And you get to the point, you're just like, maybe life is better off without me. And after having them thoughts, you know, I just wanted to end my life. And when that happened, it's nobody but God. Like when it happened, I just remember sitting, I was sitting on a paint bucket, and as I'm sitting on the paint bucket in my room, I remember the knife like breaking into pieces. And just imagine a knife breaking into pieces. Like you don't hear stuff like that, like a knife just break into pieces. And in the midst of that, I heard the Lord voice so clear. And I'm not gonna say the young lady name, but the Lord has said to inbox her, reach out to her and ask her about her testimony. Soon as I inboxed this lady, not even seconds later, this lady, she responded back, and she sent over a long note, and then she sent over a voice note on Facebook, and she told me her testimony. And in the midst of her testimony, it did something to me. Like, if she can go through this and Jesus can deliver her, that made me hungry for him. Like, I want that same deliverance. I want that same deliverance that she had. So I remember going to church the next day, and I don't care who was watching or what. When he called the altar call and I went up to the altar, all he did was just pray. But I remember him laying his hands on me, and he just laid his hands on my shoulder. And when he laid his hands on my shoulder, I just remember this loud scream, and it was this scream, and it was a demon, but it was a scream that was so loud. It's almost as if like it ripped from my shoulder. And when church was over, I had to, it took me a while, like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. It was something that I couldn't explain because I didn't know what was going on in that moment. But as of today, like from years, that was 2019, it's 2025. I never had another thought of suicide, none of that. And that goes to show, like, some of us are walking around with that spirit, and we thinking it's emotion or what people we like, okay, this person triggered this person or this thing triggered that. And it's not, like, it's not a trigger, it's a spirit, it's a demon. You have to understand, identify the condition and go to Jesus about that condition. Just imagine when I heard the Lord voice and I ignored it and I tried something else. But no, I took that moment when I heard his voice. He just needed a moment. I could have been like, "Why are you telling me this person name?" Or "What does this person name have to? Don't you hear? I wanna die, and you're over here giving me a person name, talking about reach out to them." To Usually we'd be like, "Okay, that don't make sense," but no, to the Lord, He knew what makes sense. He knew the correct person to bring at that right moment to help me get my deliverance. So after reading the story and I thought of my testimony, I was like, the Lord is asking for a moment. That's all He's asking us for. He's saying, can you just give me this one moment? Just like we give everything else our attention, can He give Him this one moment? Just imagine what can happen in a moment. Our life can change in a moment. It's just like when we're driving in a car, we could be going down the street and you see how quick accidents happen. It just takes a moment for something to happen. So imagine what can Jesus do in the moment? So no matter what you are going through right now, what you may be suffering with, your condition doesn't have to be sickness. Your condition doesn't have to be suicide. It doesn't have to be depression. Your condition could be your job. Your condition could be your finances. Your condition could be your business. Whatever your condition is, just give Jesus that moment and watch what Jesus can do in a moment.